7 o'clock, Logan. That's right. 7 o'clock. What do we do at 7 o'clock?
We start Tech Talk Taco Tuesday.
Right, and that is the show where
we talk about dirt bikes and dirt bike related products.
Man, you're getting better at this. This show is brought to you by
Honda.
And Honda has a little read for us.
Yeah.
And you've been practicing this for the last 20 minutes, right?
Yeah.
Yep. Good. Give me that thing. Hey, how does it go?
Oh boy.
That's the way it works around here. You're supposed to be on your game, buddy.
Okay. Honda's 2021 CRF 450R
is designed to take you
from the starting gate to the victory circle.
This awesome open class motocrosser features an all new
suspension, chassis, and motor.
Engine overhaul.
Yes.
And bodywork.
Yeah.
And you can forget about clutch fade, adjustment, or hand fatigue with the new
hydraulic clutch
system.
Lighter
than ever, the CRF 450R. What does it do? Come on.
Makes
it explodes out of corners when it's time to increase your lead. So get down to your local dealer and check out the 2021
CRF 450R.
Go to mx.honda.com to see the full lineup of competition bikes. And remember, the CRF 450R is intended for closed course operation only. Okay, you're going to do better at that next time, like at the end of the show, so you better start practicing in between fielding questions and figuring out how to say someone's name. Welcome, everybody. Thanks for joining in. We couldn't be here without some of our sponsors. Also helping us out is Climb. They've been around forever. I am really stoked on some of my Climb gear because I did one of my biggest crashes for sure in the last 3 or 4 years last Wednesday. Yeah, we were about 20 miles from here after 3 days and 1,600 kilometers of road books. And I didn't do all of them because I had some, typical Jimmy issues. Did a lot of them. I wanted to do all of them. I was going to do all of them. But we were in a sand wash not too far from here. And I chopped the throttle, clipped a rock. Right as I chopped the throttle, going pretty good, and cartwheeled. But only one big slow-mo cartwheel. And I was flying head first, upside down, backwards. And I landed, what really hit was my kind of like lower back is what sort of really hit the ground. And I was wearing Climb's Aggressor undershirt, which is the stuff with that D3O. And I've not really, quote, tested D3O in a way like this before, and that I know of. And I just back flopped, not a belly flop, like back flop. My helmet, so I was wearing an F5 that had that cryo stuff in it, and I kind of hit down all at once, but something caught like on my hip, right above my hip, and the only place that I had any pain, any sort of like injury whatsoever, is right where that padding ended and where my kind of hip. But I knew, that stuff worked good. I was happy with it. So
does it look like you're confronted?
I saw, no, it was a little different than that. Because he's doing tricks. I wasn't. I was just trying to get here. I mean, I just so bad. But anyways, I was the weak link that day. Actually, even that morning, I was the weak link. I think the day before, I was probably the weak link. I was good the day before that because everybody got really cold and I didn't. I was wearing Climb gear. So yeah, Climb helps us out. Also, Recluse, makers of a fine auto clutch and clutch components. Logan.
They'll make you go up a skill level.
Exactly. They'll make you go up a skill level. When are you going to get a Recluse clutch?
Hopefully sooner than later.
Yep. You don't really want one, do you? Because they're for old dudes.
Sure.
Sure. Right. Okay. Anyways, good to see some of the locals in here. Rusty, like I said, your shirt's on the way. George asked, Jimmy, your crash, is the bike okay? Well, here's the interesting thing. So my bike started making a ticky-ticky noise, and I wasn't super happy with. It was one of my KTM 500s, and it was just enough to say, you know what? I got to check this thing out. It's the one that I just recently rebuilt, and it just sounds like one of the valves is a little bit loose or something. So I'm like, hey, I'll just throw it in the truck, and I'll hop on. The guy was Jim, my buddy Jim, who was driving my motorhome, and he had his bike in the truck, and I'm like, hey, I'll just swap out bikes and ride Jim's bike back, which isn't set up for me, which I also like to blame for the crash, but it's like just an excuse. So yeah, I totaled someone else's bike. Actually, nothing really happened to it. It's got a little scratched up. It was a big crash to have nothing happen to me or bike in reality per se. So, but yeah, it was one of those ones that don't like. Don't like those to happen, and they happen every once in a while. You get one of those. You did it on a mini bike. It doesn't even count. It's kind of like George.
Yeah.
Belly flopping. So also, let's see what we're going to talk about tonight. We're going to talk about gases. Mm-hmm. We have a lot of questions. Have you checked out the digital issue of Dirt Bike Test, the magazine, issue 1, volume 1 yet? If you haven't, and you're watching this on YouTube, if you go up to the banner on YouTube, you can click on the bottom corner. It takes you right to that issue. So go check that out. If you think of all the stuff that I say is a bunch of BS on the show, you can go there and click a button, and then there's a digital magazine full of more of it. So you can go there and yell at the digital magazine instead of yelling at the screen. Makes me feel good. The interaction that we're providing. And then that magazine is brought to you by a bunch of companies as well that kind of make this show possible in a lot of ways. So they are Fly, Fast Company, Kreft, New Tech, the makers of the Nitro Moose. I've said Recluse plenty of times. Yamaha is a sponsor on that, as well as Honda, Beta Motorcycles, and KTM are all helping bring you that digital magazine. We have Climb, CD, and Moto Nation. This list got doubled up. I think this happened last time. Double Take Mirrors, Scott's Performance, Kenda makes really good tires. That I got a flat tire in my Kenda, and I usually run. I wore out a tire that had the Moose in it. And instead of throwing the Moose back in, I just said, I'm just going to tube it. I'm just going to go with the tube. And I got a freaking flat tire on a dry lake bed. So I ran over a nail or something. And, that wrecked part of my day. Black Dog Cycle Works, which we just got a box from today with some of the KTM 390 parts. So if you're a KTM 390 fan, check out Black Dog, because we're going to have their skid plate and their foot pegs, which are, I'm the guy that complains about the foot pegs in that bike, and then everybody copies me, and now KTM's mad. They said you shouldn't have complained about that. And I'm like, but it was legit. He goes, well, if you wouldn't have complained, nobody else would have, because nobody would have noticed it. I'll talk more about that later. Baja Designs. I have a nice Baja Designs hat on, and I rode at night the other night with Baja Designs light, and I was super stoked. Tour Tech makes awesome touring accessories. Scott Goggles, which I was testing their new Prospect, or not new. I just got a new Prospect light sensitive lens dust goggle. And so they make a couple different high end like goggles that have different foams in them for like when you're going high speed. This dust one actually, it makes it so your eyes don't get dried out. It's pretty cool. LA Sleeve. Man, Mark sent a picture of like 50 sleeves sitting on the ground. He put it up on our Instagram of all the cylinders they're doing. You know, it's the season when everybody fires up their snowmobiles and stuff, and everything seizes, right? Muck Off, Berm Cannon Media, We Went Fast, and of course Trail Tech, who has the upgraded software for the new Voyager. So if you have an old Voyager, you can make your old Voyager Pro new again, because now it can accept maps. So pretty good. Logan, I have some questions for you. Oh boy. So you're paying attention to all the stuff we're doing with the gas, right? All the stories that I put up on the website.
Not website, but
not website.
The Instagram.
Oh, you saw the Instagram photo. Well, that's as far as I got, because I haven't had time to put it up on the website yet. So it's good you answered that way. Instagram showed about as much as I answered a few questions. Curly How do you say that? Kuehler Stoker says, the real question, are there any plans to develop electric bikes from the Mini you are riding up to the size of a full-size bike? Really, the only one who makes bikes in the various sizes from Mini on up is OSET. Where are the in-between sizes? Question for you. Because I need a sip of beer.
Hopefully coming before 2035. That way we can still ride dirt bikes in California and...
I think we're going to ride dirt bikes in California anyways.
Chances are.
How old am I going to be in 2035? Was 20, 50, 60,
15.
65? I'll still be riding. Yeah, I'll be doing just fine as long as I don't crash like I did last time. So all manufacturers seem to be developing some sort of electric platform. I don't know. Like KTM has the E-Ride, the free ride, but they call it the E-Ride. That's their full-size one. And I did ride the Gas MXE5. I think that's what it was called. I actually putted it around. That thing was pretty cool. I mean, I wanted just to see that. I putted it around to feel the throttle connectivity and how they were toning it down. It has 6 different modes that you can play with. So you put it in mode 1, and it barely, with my weight on it, it barely would even move. And you just, you turn the throttle like wide open and it would just barely start to go. So with a kid on it, it's super tame. It's like having the washer in your PW50. So that, and then each one of them was a very nice step up all the way to 6. And 6, I felt it was better. It was way better than a well, for me, a little 50 race 50, because with my weight, the clutches just get smoked. Because it can't. But that thing is just direct drive, so it actually worked really good. And there's none of that clutch slipping, none of that clutch maintenance, which on those bikes are high level maintenance. This thing, if you can start out there, if you get to start out there, and the bike's adjustable in height and lowering, and you can do you can do 2 different shock positions and slide the forks up and down, and then there's an additional kit you can make it 100 millimeters lower, so it's the size as one of those little adventure 50s. You can turn it upside down and throw it in the back of the trunk and, plug it in and go, and the battery lasts longer than the attention span of most kids. So that may be the new best electric bike I have ever ridden, which is saying a lot. So pretty cool. Kids are lucky. And the bigger bikes are coming, but I think what's happening is that the battery technology is getting better and changing, and that is what's going to drive those. They've got the engines figured out. They're doing really good with the power controllers, so the throttle doesn't feel like an on-off switch like it does on a lot of bikes. Even some of those strange ones that people have been sending me links to, these weird kind of half mountain bike, half motorcycle things. The controllers on those things are generally horrific for a gas guy until you learn how to use them, because you get all the torque at low RPMs and it's not smooth. So, Honda's shown their bike. There was the Alta that was a really good bike. So that it's coming. It's coming. And Tony Rays wants to know. What does Tony Rays want to know?
When is the all electric Volt model coming out?
Volt. Yeah, got it. Yeah, good joke, Tony. Volt. Did you buy that name yet? Did you get voltvolt.com going? Pretty good. Next question on the gas.
Dave Rubikowski, Robot.
Oh, come on, Logan. You're supposed to nail that for Dave Robascati.
Wide or close ratio for 300 enduro?
Wide ratio. I would call it semi-wide ratio. But that's and the enduro bike, it was definitely a wide ratio. And I rode everything but the 65 and the 85. And it was only because the kids, their were the only other ones that were riding as much as me, and they weren't letting the bike sit around. So I rode the 125, 250, and 450 motocross bikes. I rode the 250, 350, 450, and 250 two-stroke cross-country bikes, which are called EXs. And then I rode the 300 Enduro also, which is the one he was asking about there. And I'm pretty sure that the 250 XC had the wide ratio gearbox in it. And I think the 350 and 250 have their own gearbox, but I think it's the same as the motocross ones. I think those ones, since they're 6 speeds, they don't change them. And the 450 has the same 4-speed. Is it 4-speed? No, it's 5-speed. I can't remember. It's hard I didn't want to ride that one, 450 EX. We rode it for photos, and then it was like, put this thing away. It's a monster. It wasn't a lot of traction. It was a monster. I was going to take that bike because I was going to compare it to the Yamaha 450 FX, but then they said, hey, take the 350, and I'm glad I did because that's a fun bike. So interesting on that intro is that, so what Gas is doing, so essentially they're red KTMs with a Husqvarna swing arm, which is a little different design on the swing arm. I think it's more aesthetics than change. So it has the aluminum rear subframe, and then they're all linkage bikes. They don't have a PDS bike, so that's a big difference. And the other area where they're a change is on the 300 Enduro. They're running Brake Tech brakes and clutch activation. So instead of being Magura or Brembo, it's another company called Brake Tech, which makes the brakes on the trials bikes. And they're positioning Gas to be a little bit more cost conscious. So a few $100s, like $500 to $700 less retail price. And they're doing it by changing some of the components. It doesn't have the machine built triple clamp. It comes with a cast triple clamp, kind of like the EXCs do on the KTM line. The suspension settings overall were they're different than KTM's, different than Huskies. They're their own unique ones, and they were said to be. We were told they were a little bit softer, and I tend to agree with them, with the exception of the initial movement of the forks. The forks felt like they needed to be broken in more. They didn't feel like they had a lot of time on them, and I'm guessing that the settings that they have on the bike are just KTM's world or European setting, which is typically a little bit softer. But I've also, in the past, when I've ridden a European bike, the initials, they have a stiff initial bit of the suspension, like the low speed compression is stiff, and these bikes sort of mirrored that. I rode a 250 at the beginning of the day, and then a motocross bike, and then also at the end of the day after it probably had 3 to 5 hours on it, and it still felt a little bit stiff, in the initial compared to the rest of the stroke, because it was definitely used up more stroke and bottomed a little bit more than a typical KTM or Husky, which not a bad thing. I think for most riders in reality, it's probably a more real world setting. Because we're not all intermediate and pro level motocross guys, and we don't need to get beat up that bad. Although I would tend to want to adjust the initial a little bit, and then the other difference is Maxxis tires on the motocross bikes. So they have the new Maxxis motocross tire, which really wasn't that bad. I don't think it transferred from and the traction was really good that day, most of Glen Helen, but when you went from that really good traction to some of the parts that were a hard packed, the bake stuff, maybe the transition on that, so actually the rubber compound may not be as good, but that's a pretty minor thing. It was on the brakes, they were good. They leaned into the turns good, and so it was hard for me to really tell the difference the tire was playing into how the suspension was feeling, and without the ability to do some back-to-back testing, it was really hard. But overall, I think that those bikes are fine. You're not gonna find any fault with them. I'm sure the other magazines will. And speaking of other magazines, So when I got on the 450 motocross bike after 2 other publications had been on it and sort of, they were kind of rotating us around because they didn't have enough bikes for everybody. So you're kind of sharing them. So and I observed the guy who got off the bike and went straight over to his little video guy, and they sat down and they talked about the bike. I know who that was. I don't know who was on it first, but so I got on this 450 and I took off and I rode around. I said, holy crap, this suspension is stiff. It feels like it's just jackhammering me. And I went about a half a lap and I came back in and I was pretty sure, I go, you know what? It feels like the tire pressure went up. You know, like maybe they checked it in the morning and it was up a little bit, but it was definitely way stiffer than the 125 I just got off, expected. But so I rode back and I said, hey, can we check the tire pressure? And they're like, we checked it. And I go, no, can we check the tire pressure? And I go, okay. So they checked the front. Anybody want to wager a guess how much air was in it? How much?
18.
22.
15.
Higher.
Whoa.
Higher. Higher.
Oh, really?
35 PSI in the front tire.
Oh.
Okay. And then how much is in the back?
Oh boy.
Well, I guess the same.
42
Okay.
in the back. And so these 2 other, you've probably watched their videos. These 2 other guys rode this bike around and they're good. And I'm pretty sure one of them even came back in and had them change some suspension clickers. Like
Tire pressure make that bike really squirrely.
it actually, when the dirt was loamy and stuff, it wasn't that bad. But if you hit a bump, if you hit like any sort of square edge chop and stuff like that, they're just and then when you start leaning it in, it just didn't bite. I was thinking like, okay, it's stiff and the tires are at like 17 PSI. We need to let some air out of them. I had no idea that they would. And what had happened is when they were doing all the tire pressure checking, this bike got pulled out so somebody could go shoot a photo of it, and it got taken out of line. I mean, when they're dealing with like 30 bikes, 20 bikes that are out there, this kind of stuff happens. But to have these are your expert evaluators. These are the guys that you would expect them to notice something like that. I mean, it took me a half a lap. And I just come off a 125, so it was a big change. Everything was a big change, and I'm like, there's something that's just not right. I didn't go spend 10 laps on it, or maybe 3 for these other guys, and come back and go, this bike's junk. So I haven't had a chance to go listen or read their, watch their reviews or whatever. But I'd love to hear how they talked about that bike, because I know what the way it was when they rode it. And there's your experts. Trust who you read about. Actually, I did watch. I did take the time to watch the Motocross Action, because it didn't come up right away. They took some time with it, and they talked about what they're going to do and how they're going to do it. And they didn't say a ton about the bike, but they're doing the same thing. Suspension's not stiff enough for us. We're so fast and all that. And then you got to go watch them ride on Saturday, and you see how fast they really are. But they actually try to do a pretty good job of reviewing the bikes and stuff. So that's where Logan gets all his info, right? MXA?
Yeah.
That's it?
No.
No. So you want a gas now? Hey, I saw some local kids out. Some local kids that were out riding. We were on the UTV yesterday. That wasn't you, was it? Yesterday you went riding? No?
Yeah.
You were riding yesterday? Did we ride right by you on the UTV?
Yeah.
You have an orange KTM now? Not a black one? That's his bike? Oh, you took your bike? You don't ride your bike anymore? You just ride Dad's bike?
Kickstand and pump gas.
So what I was going to say is they weren't riding.
No.
No, they were sitting around with their girlfriends on the bike. They were doing a little. They were doing a little smoochy up on the overlooks. Yeah, because when we went down across the valley, down to the bottom part of the valley, that's where the 100 was at. That was your sister's bike, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because we saw the bikes just parked by themselves, and we were kind of blasting. That was 2 days ago, I think it was. 2 days ago.
Yeah.
Maybe a few days in a row.
Yeah. So no, you're supposed to be riding your dirt bikes, and the girls don't belong out there. Unless they're there to hold a pit board and write down your lap times, or they're watching you ride so they know when they need to clean the air filter. That's sage advice, Logan. Yeah. So we got any questions in the room now? There was one other guy I was gonna answer kind of because he was gonna go to bed early or something like that. I forget what his I forget which question it was. It was something in the room. Any in the room you see him? Berm Cannon should tell bedtime stories with that voice of his. Zap Zap is what Chris Real thinks the gas should be called.
I like that.
Yeah, I don't. Chris Real. Sorry. They're all guessing how old I'm going to be when it's 35.
No, I think that's tire pressure.
Oh, it's tire pressure?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I figured they're just being nice about my age. They're all around 28, 35. I'm like, oh, yeah, that is tire pressure. I forgot that already. Yeah, so what bike, the Gas 450 that I rode at the intro, the motocross, the MC 450 had 35 and 42 was the tire settings after some of the other publications wrote it. Let's see. Who rides southeast of Vegas? I'm not sure what they're talking about. Okay. Where was the one question that the guy I thought I put it on that. No, I didn't. That because he said he had to go to bed. He was probably on the East Coast. I'll figure it out later. Sorry if I missed your.
Wonder if he threw it up in the.
I don't know if he threw it up in the chat room.
No, in the thing.
If Logan follows your path of romance, his wife hasn't been born yet. That means. I think what that means is no women will tolerate my style. I guess well, Heather does a little bit most of the time. Yeah, I moved on from PBRs. This is Dogfish Head. I found it at the store. It's really good for like a low carb. This is so for this to have that low carb beer. It's like a Michelob Ultra in calories, but it tastes like a beer.
It doesn't taste like water.
Yeah, it doesn't taste like water. No, it's good. Okay, this question's for you, Logan. This guy, his name is Harlan. He says he might have found the bike to retire his 85 XL 350R. It's a 2021 WR450F that's plated and has 75 hours since the scheduled top-end rebuild and inspection with a Wiseco piston and rigs, FMF Q4, Yamaha power tuner, hot cam stage 1 camshaft, suspension rebuild, revalve, and resprung lowered front and rear for a 200 pound plus rider, newly installed shock linkage and swing arm bearings, a 2-year-old EBC clutch in perfect condition. Is it worth $5,500? I'm sitting on $5,000 and itch for that TAT next summer. Should I pull the trigger?
What bike is it and what year?
It sounds like the fuse has been lit. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
It's like that list of stuff.
he's not talking out of it. Yeah.
Yeah, well, he sounds like he likes it.
Yeah.
Yeah. The fuse has been lit, maybe on the bike too. And how many hours were on it before the 75 since the top end? Because you can get 150 hours easy, and I'm wondering why they put all that stuff in there. Yeah, they usually a 200-pound guy like lowers the suspension 2 inches just by being 200 pounds. So like, what's the? Yeah. He says he raced sprint enduros with an 09 YZ250F and really liked it, though it was sprung for a 220-pound rider. I'm 33 years old, 5'10", and 160. How hard will it be to throw a blinker kit on this? Will it provide enough power to run additional lighting devices? Thank you, Jimmy, and have a wonderful holiday. Harlan.
George says it's a 2012, not a 2021.
No, 2012. Yeah, that's what it says. I messed up. Did I say 2021?
2012 for $5,000.
Yeah, that's.
I got bikes for sale for him.
Yeah, we got better bikes than that. I think. Yeah. I hear about all these crazy prices. I'm trying to charge some crazy prices on my RFS KTM's, and I'm not getting them that much.
I see that.
Yeah, they're still here. I think I got to get them. Somebody's a better salesman than me. Is what I really need. I would for $5,000, and I wouldn't, for the TAT, I would want more of like a DR650 in all honesty, or a Honda XR650L. You could probably buy a brand new one for $5,000. Honda, sponsor of the show. We're not supposed to talk about 650L. We're supposed to only talk about the CRF 450R, but you could get a CRF 450L. That's real expensive though. That's in the $9,000-10,000 range. But 650 might be a good one. You can buy used ones too. Especially for the TAT, and then it comes with all the stuff you want to throw on it, and it's not a race bike, and it'll be more comfortable, and it is more like the 85 XL 350R that you have. Interesting story. You're on the 85 XL, like San Felipe Bob, who's always in the chat room, and he turned into a Yamaha guy. Now he's all Yamaha all the time. So maybe there is some lineage there. Bob, right here, 200 hours on my WR450R, and the leak down is over 90%. Is that a bad thing, 90%? Or
Its leak down is 90%, or is it 5%?
well,
It's over 5%, it's a problem.
yeah. Not when they're warmed up. Trevor just leaked down his bike, and it was more than 5% or something. I don't remember. But then he asked me, he's having all these problems. It sounded like a fuel delivery problem, but we kind of ruled that out because he switched some stuff around. And then, so, okay, it's electrical then. It's just the little things don't go wrong. After all of this, he goes, hey, if the spark plug was loose, would this kind of stuff happen? And I'm like, yeah. It's because that's how it like the spark plug, that's how it's grounding itself. And if it's loose, and then you can have intermittent, because it was starting and it would stop, intermittent, wouldn't idle. All that. It's like, yeah, that we should call Trevor, call him, and it's confusing to listen to him talk about it.
It also lets dirt in.
It did let dirt in. He said there was plenty of dirt on the piston. So that piston durability test just went south. So now we've done 2 of them. We've run 2 Vertex pistons with the addition of dirt, and both the bikes are still running and survived pretty good. I might, the one that I have, the ticky noise, which isn't piston related, I think it's something in the top end. I might be able to get a look at that piston that doesn't have any dirt in it pretty soon. So Teneres, what's the price of a Tenere? $10,000, too expensive. Can't have a Tenere. But that would be a good TAT bike, Trans America Trail bike. What does Matt Brapp 519 want to know?
Awesome content, guys. I am torn between the KX 450 and the YZ 450F, and I know many other people are too. Have you considered making a comparison video or something of the type? Thanks.
Yeah, we always consider making a comparison video. It's getting the time to do it that is difficult. But so those are 2 distinctly different bikes, and if I were to break it down, so the Yamaha wins all of the shootouts. It seems like I don't know why, even though I like the Yamaha a lot, and it probably would be my favorite bike. I haven't, like I said, haven't done a shootout for a couple of years now. But the one thing about the Yamaha is you have the power tuner, the app, and I can turn that bike into anything I want with the engine. So it's like, it's such a good engine. It's easy to tune, and that makes that bike so much easier to use. So that being said, I kind of take the engine of the Yamaha out of the equation, because I can make that engine the best. I can make it into even one when I like. I really like the new Honda. The new Honda has a really, except for the noise it makes at low RPM, everything. I like everything else about that bike. Now, I would tune my Yamaha to run just like the Honda, and then it's like, okay, then now we get into the stuff that makes these bikes really different, or the way that they handle and how they, how the suspension works. And the Yamaha has really good suspension, and I think Kawasaki has kind of gotten pretty close to that. I think, they both of those 2 bikes compared to some of the others feel a little heavier or some people call it more planted. I think the Yamaha turns better, has better turning. So it's just, you're just nitpicking between these kind of two sort of excellent bikes. And it's like, which characteristics, if you said, I want a bike that has, it would be a handling characteristic. So if you wanted something that like is a front end turning bike, I would kind of start to go Yamaha. If you want something that's just easy to, like easier to ride, is not as finicky. Yamaha can be finicky. Kawasaki is like, hey, I don't really want to check my sag before each ride. I don't really like playing with clickers. You can probably come to a pretty good setting on the Kawasaki and never touch it again, where I think on the Yamaha, you go to different kind of tracks and you might want to play with it. I don't mind playing with bikes, and I'm pretty good at it. So I kind of enjoy, getting that Yamaha to work better every time I ride it. So yeah, that's it. There's your comparison. Done. They're both good. which dealer is better? Because they're all going to be the same price. Next question.
Meghan F.
Mm-hmm.
Where in Nevada were you riding? Gorgeous views.
What do I usually tell people?
Go find it.
Go find it yourself. Yeah. That's me. I don't want to I don't want the internet to reveal all the awesome riding spots. And if we make it too easy, we tell you exactly where those spots are and you go there, then everybody goes there, then they're not that awesome anymore. So, I think you should have to work for it, because if you work for it, then you would be like me and you would want to tell everybody where it's at, because you don't want it to get ruined, unless you think that that's the best way to win a popularity contest on the internet, is to give everything away for free and then have your favorite riding area turn into a garbage dump, because the people that get the information for free tend to treat it like they got it for free, and then we all suffer. So that's the way it is. Rusty Neal has a timer on me.
Yeah.
You want to know why? Anyone want to guess? Yeah. What haven't I done? Yeah. I'm good. Let's see if we can get through a whole show.
Maybe.
I don't know. I touched one today. I moved it out of the way of the other bike that I bump started today. You want to imagine what that was? Fuel injected 2-stroke. An OSA.
Oh.
Yeah, I got it started today. It started right up, not with a Kickstarter, with a bump start. But yeah, just wanted to make sure it still ran.
Doug Derby.
Doug Derby, yes.
He said maybe Jimmy doesn't have any of those running right now.
Nope, they both run. They're both running. Next question.
Captain #250 #FX. Horrible audio.
Well, that's a real constructive comment. He's talking about the Beta 300 ride test. So I went and looked at Captain FX250 # whatever his name is. I went and looked at his page where he rides around and talks too, and I thought maybe like, thanks, buddy. Horrible audio. Like, if you're doing it, tell me how to do it better, man. Don't just beat on me. You sound like he sounds like, well, right away I noticed he needs riding lessons. That was obvious. I could tell he was out of balance the whole time, and then he's kind of breathing hard. His audio is so good you can hear him breathing, which I don't know if I like that. It's not really, doesn't turn me on. So next time I'll breathe hard in my video for you, Captain. So next.
Travis Carroll. Well done, my riding buddy, and I have planned to
ride the Tour of Idaho
in 2021, but
it's 2012.
Had planned. Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
See, it's not only me that gets the dates wrong.
Well, I was just guessing. They messed it up, but he couldn't do it, so rode the CDT instead.
The Continental Divide Trail.
Have you found any new
blah 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 blah
blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, it's the printer looks like it jacked up. Magic for your feet.
To me, that is the hardest physical aspect to ride like these. Wet feet next to a hot motor for hours makes my feet look and feel like boiled chicken.
Okay, so have you ever seen anybody that has have you ever heard of that elephantitis disease where their skin just wrinkles up and so if you're eating dinner right now, go watch my Tour of Idaho video, and you get to see my feet about probably minute 35 or something like that. And this was a problem when I was racing in Dakar, especially in Dakar, because then I had cylinder heads that were hot and your feet were sweaty, and I had vented boots and it still wasn't good enough. So sometimes when you're doing those 10 and 12-hour days, your feet get pretty bad. So I told him I had some. So better socks. Since then, we've had some socks that, believe it or not, have some venting technology or channels in them. Yeah, they wick, and then they literally have channels in them that seem to they do a pretty good job of drawing the moisture away from my feet. Some of them actually have padded sections. So like at the ball of your feet, Climb makes a really nice set. I think they're wool actually in certain spots, but there's a padded section kind of at your ball of your feet, and then there's kind of an ankle cup in the sock. And those ones have been really good at keeping my feet dry, giving a little air inside there. And I wear most of the time the CD Crossfire boots, which have a kind of a smaller toe box, and they're tighter and they don't really breathe. Most boots don't really breathe, but they don't let too much water in. It's kind of like a tit for tat, but so those are the things. Better socks has helped quite a bit, and those socks went whatever it was, 9 days or something, because I didn't have. So you can imagine what those donkeys smelled like at the end of the tour. I know what I was going to talk about is on the gas. So on the 300 Enduro that we rode, they have the Brake Tech brakes, and I'm gonna post the story up on Dirt Bike Test where I go into a little bit more detail, but they're not that bad, and so that's going to be a cost cutting, I'm sure a lower cost option and they only have it on the 300 Enduro right now. And what I noticed was that not as much bite as a Brembo brake, what we're used to at the KTM, which are pretty. It's funny because before we used to complain about how grabby they were, and now everybody's gotten used to it, and they kind of expect that level of, you got used to higher performance, and it's like, okay, now we're used to it, so we don't complain about it. But I bet you that newer riders or guys that aren't so experienced, it's still too grabby for them. But since the pros say it's really good, and pros go to bigger oversized discs and better brake pads and all this other stuff that you as a regular guy don't need. So I don't think this is a problem. And so there's less bite and overall not as much power, so everybody would say that's bad. No, I think for average guy, it's probably right where it needs to be. If you're riding with a bunch of guys that are all top level guys and they all say, I really like the brakes on the KTM better than this. We noticed back when Honda went from a steel braided line to a rubber line. The components on the end stayed the same and the rubber line changed, and it was a cost thing. But it was also, they found that their regular riders thought the brake worked better because it wasn't as grabby. So there's stuff like that to kind of pay attention to. But that was, and I went down the Glen Helen downhills and I was dragging it on purpose and trying to get it hot and, make it fail. Felt bad because it's a brand new bike and I'm making the rotors blue, right? Broke the brakes in for the next guy. That was hard on them. No fade. They didn't get weaker or anything funny like that. And then the clutch. So the clutch felt like it was a smaller diameter piston. So it took a longer throw to disengage. So remember how the Magura clutch activation was a little bit quicker and sharper, which I preferred. And then the Brembo was a little bit more modulation, little less lever effort. and then this one seems like it's a step in that. It's like one more step in that direction, where I like a little bit less movement at the lever, maybe a little bit more. I don't mind a little bit more firm of a pull, but that way it's quicker and kind of snappier. And this one was real easy to use. So that's kind of the changes I noticed on that bike. And so if you're curious about that stuff, I don't think the pro level riders are all going to complain, but I think for regular people, it's just regular riders, it's just fine. We'll see how the long term durability holds up on that stuff. I know that some of the Magura clutches on the Husky seem to have a harder time lasting as long as some of the other stuff. But Recluse does make a really good replacement slave cylinder that you can cure that with. Just saying. So, okay. Next question.
Pavel Lavrov.
Yeah, I saw you take a picture of that.
Did you use KTM application on mobile phone for connected Bluetooth?
So he's from a different country. Russia. That's Russian. So he's asking me if I connected on our KTM 390 to the mobile phone. Yes, I did. Did I use the KTM application? No, because I didn't want to buy it. Because it's like KTM My Ride or something like that connects to it, and it's just another map. And I have a map up here in my head, and I didn't need another map on my thing. So I didn't really dive too deep into that, because I think it was like $5 and I'm too cheap. Maybe somebody will sponsor this show and I can buy it. KTM used to sponsor the show. Maybe they should have sponsored me with the Bluetooth. Next.
John M. Flores. Jimmy Lewis is legend. Subscribed.
John Flores. Isn't that guy a famous surfer? That guy's a legend too. Yep.
John Flores.
John Flores. Yeah.
The Bleeding Gamer. Can you please show it in snow?
So he's asking to see the Crostini all-wheel drive adventure bike in the snow. I would love to take that thing in the snow, but I'd also love it if it wasn't broken. That's what I'm getting paid to do, is break it. Because they're figuring out what the weak links are. If they're making a kit for it, they want to know what breaks. And luckily, it's not been any of the stuff that's up on the triple clamps going down to the fork, which is the important stuff that's already made. It's been all the stuff to connect the countershaft sprocket to the gearbox to the going up to the triple clamp. So between the engine and the triple clamp, we've been having some teething problems. And since Crostini is selling a boatload of all-wheel drive fat-tired bicycles, the motorcycle projects, because that makes money, the motorcycle projects sort of take a back seat. And so that's where we're at with that one. Next.
Sea Tiger News. Best review I've seen on this bike.
Best review, of course, is is there any question? CG News?
Sea Tiger.
Sea Tiger Muse. Yeah. Of course, is the best review on this bike. Kamal Thapa.
Anyway, ground clearance of the KTM Adventure 390 is not substantial for off-road.
For off-road.
Yeah.
Well, in the video, we demonstrate the bike riding off-road. And I didn't see any place in the video where the ground clearance was an issue. So the answer is no. That's why we put the video out. That's why Did I not talk about the ground clearance? I mean, ground clearance is pretty low on that thing. But like, are you hopping over logs, or, in wherever Kamal
Everything runs out of
Thapa.
gas, right?
Everything runs out of gas. Yeah. Everything runs out of gas too. Kamala Thapa. Maybe they have to ride over bamboos and stuff and sticks and jungle things, and then the ground clearance is an issue.
Paulo C. Yep, one of the best episodes You three clowns just need to do more drinking while talking. Love Short's reaction to the prices of climb gear. And tell Ricky I bought one of his new hoodies because of the show. Good luck to them and their teams at 2021 Dakar.
You skipped a whole line of that. Great insight into how riders at different events think and how their bikes are set up differently, etc. Yeah, that's when we get the pros in here. They tell us that stuff, right?
Yes.
Right? Yeah. Yep. He was talking about taking the 390 off sweet jumps. I did some sweet jumps in that video. I think there's a couple sweet jumps, but ground clearance wasn't an issue. Yeah, thanks, Paulo. Try to bring you those guys. They wanted to do a show last week, but where we were at on Tuesday night, no internets or anything like that. They hardly say it to me, but they actually had a fun time. They enjoy doing it. It's like not doing normal press. So they're like, oh, that's kind of goofy. You can talk about whatever you want there. And hopefully their sponsors aren't watching, or maybe they are watching. Hey, have you seen the new Ricky Braybeck video? See that?
Started it.
You just saw the start of it. It's like 30 minutes long. George, get that up there on the chat room. I'm sure.
Good.
Yeah, it kind of tells Ricky's story, which a lot of people don't know. I mean, I didn't know until I met him. I mean, I heard a little bit about, where he came from, fat kid from the high des that just got sick of working. He wanted to ride dirt bikes and he put the work in. He still is. So yeah, good story. Next,
Bill Slicer on the WR450F video. Too technical for me.
So you think he's talking about the information in the video, or is he talking about the riding?
I don't know.
What would you think?
Probably the riding.
I think maybe I said too much about the bike.
What video?
WR450F, the Yamaha. I don't remember. It's been a couple years. But yeah, the video is called Conquering the Impossible. And it's up on the YouTube's Monster just released it, I think, yesterday or the day before. So pretty cool video. Get a chance, click on that thing. Next.
Robin Thomas. Come to
Unami Salt Flats in Bolivia.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm on my way. No, they like tourists there. They adventure bikes and stuff. Everybody likes, lots of guys there. I can't travel right now. I don't really want to travel right now. I'm going to go to some salt flats around here or something like that. Then I won't crash into rocks and sand washes.
The Husky 501 video. Mojo and SB. Hey guys, thanks for the video. You mentioned the engine getting hot. Is that a problem with these bikes? Thinking about getting the 350S. Does this have the same issue, or is it a non-issue?
So Mojo, so I think it's funny. I remember I replied to him on the YouTubes, on the comment, and then I know my brain works differently. We talk about it getting hot when it has the little insert in the exhaust. So at the very end of the exhaust, there's a little piece of perf in there that for some reason on most of my bikes that tends to fall out, or it's coached out, or it gets removed. But that thing, what that thing does besides knocking the sound down a decibel or two, mostly to the sound meter, is it traps a lot of heat inside of the exhaust system, which traps a lot of heat into the motor. And so that's what he's asking about. So the 350 has that? Yes. And the 350 does that? Yes. If I had that bike, would it fall out? Yes. I have a KTM version of it. So that's where the heat is. But it comes with a cooling fan, and for the most part, it'll handle that heat, no problem. But I tell you what, if you combine that heat with slipping a lot of the clutch, doing a lot of clutch slipping, then it won't handle the heat. because I forgot about the muffler thing, and I was thinking, did you watch where he rode that thing in the video? Like some of the canyons we took the 501 up were pretty sporty, and so yes, the 350 it acts exactly the same in that respect. But if you take that out, the heat buildup it's not a big deal. But it will not cure the clutch heat. Recluse clutch might if you do it yourself.
Rider S. Oregon. Rally racing sounds cool. It would be nice to have things explained a little bit. Example, I don't know what a road book is.
Oh, we didn't. I mean, imagine having two guys one guy that won the Dakar and the guy that finished in top 10, and we didn't even explain how that stuff works. So bad on me. You want to go grab me one of those iPads that are the one that's actually plugged in. It's right over there on the wall, on this wall here.
Oh, okay.
It's there on that little thing. The one that's closest to me, grab that thing, and I will.
You actually want an iPad?
Yeah, the iPad. Yeah, I think there's one that's plugged in.
The one that's plugged in.
Yeah, that one has a road book in it, and I can explain some of this. That is, I will explain it. We'll go to the next question. I'll get this thing fired up.
Rudolph Hassan is not trend lightly. It's not trend lightly.
Remember, he's mad when he's saying this, so be angry.
It doesn't vote Democratic because they shut down riding areas, don't blow smoke, call a spade a spade. Don't tell me a dirt bike cutting a rut is destroying the environment.
Logan, you gotta remember when you're saying these, just let them sink into your head. So the next time, like, an adult approaches you with something, you fire back with this bull crap. Wait, I'm sorry I said that. Then you can sound like a real educated. Go ahead, keep going.
People mountain bike and make ruts. They will never relent, even how careful we are not to disturb the spotted tree snails. They just didn't want people enjoying public land on two wheels because it scares them and they walk.
So do you think this guy had a trail closed down, or a greenie got yelled at him? Or, I mean, we all feel this way.
Yeah.
You all feel this way. I think he watched the show, and then he actually went back and edited this comment a couple times because I saw the different evolutions of it. He actually made it nice. But yeah, Rudolph, chill out, man. I'll tell you what'll help is, don't show all your trails on the internet. That'll solve half the problems. I can agree with you on the don't vote Democrat for the most part. I think that typically the greenies tend to vote that way, but they're just all for closure. It's all for closure and all for me. They want their areas all to themselves and nobody else to get in there, no matter what you want to do. They don't care whether it's, once they get rid of the motorcycles, they go after the bikes, they'll go after the horses. They don't care. And everybody wants their area. I swear they think that we won't want all of the trails only for us. That's the way they I go to these meetings. I work with people that work in this arena, and it's important for all of us to try to get along and try to educate people on what our needs are. And if they keep shoving us into smaller and smaller areas and closing stuff down, well, guess what? People get pissed off, and then they ride places that they shouldn't. And then there's always going to be those idiots that are, when you hear the wheelie boys going up and down the streets, they call those dirt bikers. And then when one smashes into a car and gets killed, a dirt biker is killed. It's like, no, that wasn't a dirt biker. That was a wheelie boy or something. And that's not what a dirt biker is. So we have a public image problem that it's difficult to overcome, because what we like doing is considered by a lot of people to be crazy and out of control. But think about the stuff that we get to do on a dirt bike. If we didn't get to do that, what else would you be doing? Like, think of how crazy we can go out in the desert or go out in the woods, and you can go out and you can do some pretty crazy stinking stuff, and it's legal and it's allowed. And if you take that away, how does that person like cope with needing that level of thrill or excitement someplace? I've always known this. I mean, because once I got a dirt bike, I got out of trouble. I stopped getting in trouble when I had a dirt bike, and the dirt bike was used to keep me in line. So think about that the next time nobody that wants to close down trails listen to this show, but when you're trying to explain to somebody, like, why would you do that? Why are you going to do that? Use that argument I just gave you right there. This is a good way to channel some of that aggression. People are like, well, team sports, go do team sports. That's too structured. That was too structured for me. I didn't like baseball. I sat on the bench for like half the game. I wanted to cut a hole in the fence and go ride my dirt bike. That's what I really wanted to do, So it's Rudolph, I feel your pain. Just careful about how you portray that, because if you end up a little bit farther out on the outside, then you can't come back in, and then you're not part of the discussion anymore. You're just that crazy ass that's ripping up you're now, even though you're not, you're the guy that's ripping up and down the street or hills, or you become one of those people that's not well spoken and can't be part of the discussion. Join a group, join a club, support the groups that keep access open, do trail work, pick up trash, all that stuff. It's all good. I'm going to go back to Ryder S. Oregon's question. So I have in front of me, I'm going to hold it up on the screen right now, a digital road book. So it's essentially just an iPad, and this is running something called RB Nav Pro that has a thing in there, and I have buttons on my bike that'll actually scroll this up and down. I think it'll do it with let's see if the volume buttons work on this one. It's turning around sideways and stuff. I can't even find the buttons on my own iPad. Here they are here. Does that make it go? Up, down? No. Doesn't work. But anyways, so this is how you navigate your way around in a rally. And so what there are is if you're looking at it, which is hard to do if you're listening to this, but I'm going to explain it. On one side, there's a box that tells the mileage. So the mileage that you're supposed to be at. Then there's a picture. It's a drawing of what's on the ground. Like it shows, you in a river or a wash, or you're riding on a road that comes next to a fence that goes along the highway, or you go underneath the highway on a bridge. That's what these different symbols are showing that I'm kind of glancing at and talking about. And then on the other side, there's a series of instructions, things like on the one that's up there now, it says Cap 46, which is a direction that's basically, it would be northeast, and it says more or less MOI, which means average. It's the average cap, so you're going to go most of the time you're going to go 46 that direction. It says always in the river, so it means you're in a wash with lots of different tracks. And so by using these instructions, it tells you exactly where you're at and exactly what to do. And so when Ricky tells you it's like texting at 100 miles an hour, he's not kidding. It's like reading a text at 100 miles an hour. You're not actually texting. And then you see on this device that I'm holding up, that you can see the degrees. It's mostly showing 260 because it thinks it's facing the direction you're looking, which is west. And then the odometer right now is currently reading 0. It also shows you what the next waypoint that you would come to. And then if you got close to a waypoint, like with our software, an arrow will open up and guide you into the waypoint. If you were like in sand dunes and you wanted to go to an exact point, if you get close enough to it, then an arrow opens up and then it navigates you in. And so this is what's going on in a rally rider's head. And what these guys are really good at doing, and I'm just going to scroll through here and find something, is they can look at this note that I'm going to point out right here, and then I'm going to glance at it real quick, and I'm going to tell you what it means. Okay, so it tells me at 39 point something, that's the mileage, I'm going to come to something that's dangerous because I see something with an X on it, and then I'm going to do a change of direction. And I look at it again real quick, and it says, so that's how long it took me to look at it. And I know when I leave that, I'm going to be going at a cap heading of 15, and I'm no longer going to be on a road. So that's enough for me to glance at it, and now I if I was at that mileage, that's what I would do. And then I would know that I didn't glance at it enough, but if I glance at it again, I would know how long I have to go to the next note, which is 39.37, which is really quick. It's 38.91. So see, there's dyslexia kicking in. That's why I feel the distance. I don't use the odometer that much because the numbers get too close, especially when you have like an 8 and 9 together or a 9 and an 8 together, things like that. But you have to learn what your weakness is. So there's even small writing up there that tells me in 100 meters. So I was supposed to go 73, and then in 100 meters I needed to go cap 15. So I might have made a navigation error right there. So does that make sense, Ryder S. Oregon? That's what rally navigation is. So you do that, all that, and race your motorcycle at the same time. And they race for long periods of time. That's why they have big giant gas tanks, so the bikes go really far. And it's the lowest elapsed time in the section is the winner. And you start based on your finish position from the day before, typically. So people say, well, why don't you just use a GPS? Well, GPSs are not allowed. And then they also say, well, why don't you just follow everybody? Well, it's as easy to follow somebody the wrong way as it is to follow somebody the right way. So you have to know how to do all this stuff and things like that. Yes, Bob.
How they use a roll chart, not.
They will be using this next year, not this year. Yeah. Well, this is the future. Yeah. Yeah. And basically right now they're printed on paper and on 2 scrolls, and it's an automatic scrolling thing that does that. But we're working on the digital ones right now. And there, Justin Smith throws up the rallyblitz.com home buttons thing too. So shout out to Phil Walker. Yes. Phil is behind the buttons, and man, I wish I remembered all the guys that were behind behind Tulip, which is the software we use there. Mike Shirley, who's been on the show, does Rally Navigator, which is another version to build map books. So there's a lot of guys that kind of put together, and we sort of scab together our own little thing so we can actually train here. It's because you listen to us talk about that, how difficult it is to train. Like map books just don't grow on trees. So, yeah, good group of guys. Well said. Street Willie Kings have really pissed off a lot of people. Yep. I admire the skill it takes to do that and stuff. I just wish they'd go do it someplace that wasn't a public street and end up as a hood ornament, or given a regular dirt bike or a good image. Okay, next question.
John Jackson, Tech, Guru Logan. Please get a YouTube live feed going. Please do the live feed on YouTube. I don't do Facebook.
So John Jackson actually he had some questions that he wanted answered, but he doesn't do Facebook. So you're working on that, right?
Soon as we get more
Wi-Fi's?
Yeah.
Right, but you got to get your other list to me. That's the primary.
Yeah.
That's of primary importance. So were there any other questions in the? Oh, we got another one there, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Mark Stewart. After 30 years, we're still comparing YZ. 125
2T means 2-stroke.
2-stroke to a 254 stroke. If we're going to compare 2-stroke and 4-stroke, why not the YZ 250X versus YZ 250FX?
30 years ago, the 4-strokes haven't been around for 30 years. You're dating yourself, man. Back then, let's see, 30 years ago, so that'd be in 1990, you'd be comparing an XR 250 to a YZ 125, maybe.
Yeah,
And in 19, yeah, but they were hard to get. It just barely. The 88, I think, is when those kind of really came out. But so we're talking about the 250 2-stroke to 4-stroke. So back then, think about what we were doing back then. Like, which one was wiping which one's butt? Like there was no comparison between a YZ250 and an XR250, or even like a KX500 versus an XR600. You know, those would be the comparisons, and we're still doing it. And so his question is, why don't we compare the YZ250 two-stroke to the YZ250 FX? Well, it kind of depends, I guess, on where you're racing, and the reason we compared the ones that we did. Thanks for watching the video, though. By the way, Mark, that video is hard to find. It's actually from the digital magazine, and on purpose, it's unlisted on YouTube's because we're actually seeing how many people kind of travel through our magazine and end up on the YouTubes. So Trevor and I kind of sit down and just toss back and forth about why, one or the other, like which, and it's designed for someone who's probably moving up or newer rider, and it's like, hey, what do I do? What am I trying to accomplish? Am I racing? And there's one question. There's one answer. It's a 4-stroke. It's just better. Or am I young and moving up and I need experience and I want to become a better rider? Or I'm older and I just want to have a lot of fun. And the 2-stroke kind of comes into its own there. So that's why we did it. It was just our opinions, but he's not trying to be mean. He said 125 versus yeah. If you're racing a certain class, then I think like in like the Big Six GPs, you can run the 252 stroke against they call it a Pro 2 class or something. Then but Works is weird because you can run 450s in the second tier Pro class, right?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah,
maybe.
I think they run. Yeah, most of the guys they all run.
They got that, yeah.
It's like there's like there's the Pro AA and then there's the A class or something. Because if you qualify out of one of the A races, any of the A races, you make it into that. So you're racing. Because I made it in on a 125 once, and raced against 450s. I didn't care. That's what I wanted to ride. So ask the guy who wants to ride a 125 why he talks about a 125 and compares it to 254 stroke. It's a losing question. Hey, Mark, I don't mind you asking the question. It just spawns good discussion. Are we done with those questions on this? We're all done on the sheets?
Yeah.
Yep. You got your thing memorized in case we're signing this show off? I'm going to roll back through the questions. Let's see. Drew Mitchell is Tulip. That's right. Drew, I met him at one of these non-event rallies that I got invited to, which is pretty cool. Have you ever tested the Crest revalve control? Interesting you asked that. Didn't look at what's that? What does that say right there?
Crest Moto. Explain.
Right. I wanted to do that. So thank you, Cody, for asking this. So Creft wants, we want to do a test on the Creft revalve suspension and stuff. And so I'm kind of going through the customer process. So they're sending me a box to send my suspension back in, and you fill out a form, and then they do a follow-up call where they want to talk to you about what you filled out in the form to make sure they got it all right. And I did that today. And talk about some suspension geeks. I mean, these guys, and I'm saying this in a good way. I mean, these guys, I've seen some of the pictures of their things, the stuff that they have, and it's crazy. I mean, somebody really spent a lot of time thinking about this. And so I went back and forth on the phone today and talked to him a little bit about what I felt, because I really like this. I'm going to send a 500 EXC suspension in. I really like the stock suspension. On some of my bikes, it's completely stock, and most of them, they are just springs. That's all I've done. I can make the bike work, springs and oil level. And so they're going to try to make it better than that. And so we're going to see how that works. But they have some interesting things. One of their valves is called, and this would have I tested the Creft revalve control? No, I haven't, and that is what we are going to test on this bike. And I'm excited to try it because I know what they're trying to do with that. And so they're trying to give you the adjustment, an external adjustment for mid-speed and high-speed damping, which is generally what you do when you get a revalve. You adjust those two things, because typically your compression adjusters on most bikes do low speed compression. And then now you have high speed compression on a lot of the modern shocks. So you can adjust those, but the mid speed, mid stroke, a lot of times that's difficult to adjust via an adjuster. Interesting fact though is WP Explorer forks, those adjusters are pretty much mid speed adjusters just by design. They don't do, I don't feel it, and Kraft actually said they don't see it on their dyno, on their suspension dyno, that they don't do any adjustment on low speed, and I totally agree with it. So Cody, I've not, but I guarantee you by February 1st or so, I will have a good answer for you, because I will have tested it by then, because they are pretty well backed up. And then with the holidays and everything like that, I want to make sure I get it in the next digital magazine, the evaluation of that stuff. So we'll see how it goes. Jesse Kent says, my bike is plated for access to plated BLM roads. I got to protect the desert plate as icing on the cake for the BLM cop. I got the protect the desert plate. Oh, I think it's a plate design, like a special issue plate. So any other questions that we missed?
Chris Smith says, when is KTM going to buy Suzuki? Suzuki needs E-Start and KTM needs yellow plastics.
Wait, where was that?
Second bottom.
Second bottom. When is KTM going to buy Suzuki? I think you can get yellow plastics for KTM. You can get almost any color plastic for KTM. I don't think that
It's a cultural problem.
I like the I mean, the Suzukis are have some good characteristics that I hope don't go away. I wish they would modernize that bike, put a damn electric start on it, and if you, I've said this a million times, man. If you have a smooth motocross track with good little lines and stuff in it, there's nothing like a Suzuki on those things. Those bikes turn so good, always have. So I hope it's really interesting. I don't know what they're doing. They introduced 2021 models, and they're all kind of the same as the old ones. They added some new colors in it and everything. There was a question earlier about gas starters. Oh, I remember seeing that. Somebody asked me. I replied to him on the thing. I think that was the question. The guy was going to go to bed. So perfect answer at the end of the show. He asked me if I have noticed any issues with gases being hard to cold start. And I said, not hard to start. Like my 350, all the bikes I rode at the intro started right up, and some of them were cold when I got on them. And it was chilly that day. But my 350, it's been below freezing a couple nights, and it always starts right up. But boy, does it not like to idle and run. I mean, you've got to kind of crack the throttle, and it's like it seems like the thick oil really puts an extra load on that particular bike. And it may have the break-in oil, who knows what it is inside of it still. It doesn't have that much time on it just yet. But it seems like it needs to warm up before it will settle down into an idle, and it always seems very, very lean until the bike is warmed up in these cold temperatures. So I did notice that, and it could be the bike need to be broken in a little bit more, the motor loosen up a little bit, everything loosen up a little bit. That kind of could help it. So yeah. Any other ones? That was it. People are checking the prices on the KTM 390. Talking about something that leaks. What leaks? I think I managed to get through the show without saying the word.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty good, huh? Hey, you're just gonna have to listen to the I'm gonna hold off. I'm not. There aren't even any pictures of them up there. One of these times it's just gonna be all there. It's all whatever those things are. Now, how do you know I didn't sign? Because I'm loyal to my sponsors. How do you know that Honda didn't say you can't say any other H brands? How do you know that isn't in the contract? Because it may be. We may only have to be able to talk about Honda's new 2021 Sierra 450R is designed to take you straight from the starting gate to victory circle.
This awesome open-class motocrosser features all-new chassis, a major engine overhaul, new suspension, and new bodywork. And you can forget about clutch fade, adjustment, or hand fatigue with the new hydraulic clutch system.
Lighter than ever, the Sierra 450R explodes out of corners when it's time to increase your lead. So get down to your local Honda dealer and check out the 2021 Honda Sierra 450R. Go to mx.honda.com to see the full line of competition bikes. And always remember, the Sierra 450R is intended for closed course competition use only. I want to ride the Sierra 450RX, the new one. But I don't think they're too excited about having us come out because they're all sold out. So, Justin Smith would love to hear about Ricky and Andrew's prompt send off to the Dakar, and if you worked with Skylar at all. No, I didn't work with Skylar at all this year. Ricky and Andrew, yeah, they had a good. We had a good training. Yeah, it's all top secret out here. We just did magic road books. I tortured them, I think. Did the torture chamber, and that was it. Like, rode when it was freezing cold. Stayed up too late, got up too early, that stuff. So, yeah, we'll get them on the show, and when they come back from Dakar, hopefully we have really good news. And those guys do awesome. But I'm excited for both those guys, and I really hope they make the navigation tricky. I really hope they make it tricky because those guys are good. Yeah. So. Awesome. Mark Daniel says, thank you for a great season. Wishing you all at Tech Talk Taco Tuesday a Merry Christmas. Mark, we wish you a Merry Christmas as well. Thanks for joining in on this. Thanks for everybody. Happy holidays. Are we going to be back next week?
Up to you.
It's up to me. I thought you were the boss around here. Yeah. Are you going to get that list done for me? Logan is going to start teaching me if he gets the list of drills to me tomorrow earlier rather than later. Logan is going to start teaching my beginner off-road motorcycle training course. So now I've said it out loud. So if you don't do that, then all these people are going to get on your ass too. So no more slacking. It's not like you have to go to school or anything. We already know how that's working. So anyways, for Jimmy Lewis, for Logan, Tyler, and everybody out there, thanks for watching us Tech Talk Tuesday. We will see you out on the trail. Cheers.